Hello, my name is Cassandra Dickerson. I am a digital illustrator and writer, and today I'm going to be covering the topic of manually editing your work using dry media. The dry media that I use is the Bee Inspired Studio Pad. It is a student grade edition with 200 sheets. This is what it looks like. You have to be kind of careful. The top came off and the bottom came off whenever I rolled it up, but I've put this thing through so much. Like, I'm literally halfway through it, I think, a little over halfway through it. And it's been super helpful for me. Oftentimes, whenever you're writing, it's a lot like dreaming. You got to get it down real quick, and then you forget it, and it's gone forever. So that's the purpose of keeping a studio pad for writing. And the same thing goes for illustration. Sometimes you'll catch an emotional beat. It'll have that inspired insight that artists get sometimes out of nowhere, and you want to draw it and get it down on paper. That is what this is for, and it will keep it in a chronological sequence of events throughout your story. It's kind of like the brainstorming file, the brain info dump that you have for your writing and your ideas. It's been super helpful at Walmart. They used to carry it there. That's where I originally bought it. I went down the aisle and I saw it and I was like, look at that beauty. So she's huge. She's 200 sheets, and she has an acid-free paper, which means that there's no yellowing if you choose to use it for illustrating. You can illustrate on this paper and it works out beautifully using dry media, of course, to include pencils. The best result that I've had so far is with the Prisma colored pencils. You can use oil-based pencils on this paper. I don't recommend it though. I recommend getting a wax-based pencil just because it's a little softer and it's a better render for the image. You can get a very, very smooth finish on this paper and it looks very high quality. So it's better than your average printer paper. The printer paper is not going to give you the tooth. This does have some tooth on it, and you can burnish it with your pencils without it feathering. It's an anti-feather paper, so that's nice. I love that about this paper. What I also love is that you can stick it in your printer and it won't break it. So that's a plus, a major plus for why I use this paper, because sometimes I don't want to digitally edit something because it may require more detail than I can give at that point, and I might want to manually illustrate it instead, just to get more detail into the photo, or to the, sorry, not photo, but into the image itself. And it requires a fine-tooth pencil. So that is why I prefer to use manual illustration sometimes over the digital illustrations. It's not that you can't get the same type of quality. It's just that with the Huion, it only goes so far with certain details, and then the rest you're left on your own. And that's when manual illustration comes into play. Or you could use a Wacom and just not buy the Huion device at all, which is very, very good for fine tooth illustrations. So that's what I have for you today. I'm going to go over how to do this in a short video and give you the app at the end of the video. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and use my Posca white pen in order to smudge the background. You don't see me using it here, but that's what I did. I used it to blur that image in the background. I know in a previous video I said that you have to use dry media with this paper. However, the paper is pretty tough. I went ahead and put down the Posca white pen to blend the background, and it didn't require a lot of dry time, but probably about 5 minutes in between. Of course, I'm doing a speed version of this video, so you don't see the dry time, but yeah, it takes a couple of minutes for it to dry. Then you see me putting the alcohol marker over it. That is the gray alcohol marker to make that wonky shape to emulate a bottom of a bookshelf. So this part, I was actually making the baseboard of the school classroom. It's blue and it looks kind of like blue paneling there. It's not the perfect blue. And sometimes you'll run into that problem with doing an illustration. You won't have the right color scheme no matter how hard you try, and it can be pretty frustrating. So that's not really a problem with the way that I'm showing you. Of course, if you want to correct it with your pencils, you could always wait for it to dry, and that's what I've done in the past. But because we're using a filter, you'll see why it doesn't matter. It actually uniforms that aspect, so just get it as close as you can. It's a pretty forgiving process. So this is the cartoon app. The cartoon app is really helpful. It's for all those artists out there who are actually really good but need a polished cleanup. This filter keeps all of the original artwork, but it adds a filter to the artwork and it keeps it clean and polished looking. So it also unifies everything in terms of color and texture. That's very important. So the two overlays that I'm going to be using today are from Rich and Flow that come from the Cartoon Pro app. This is a app that I got from the Android. So here we go. We have the illustration here, the original, and then we're going to move into the Rich filter and the Flow for a final image, and that is the one rendered. I think it actually turned out pretty good. I'm very, very confident that this will look nice. Real quickly, I just wanted to interject. Sometimes whenever we do something, we go back and we realize, oh, there's a mistake here. I noticed that it kind of warped the eye a little bit on Micah, my character. She, in the original pic, didn't have that problem. And looking back, I noticed that, yes, in fact, she had a warping of her eye. It looks like it's bleeding off of the page. So I'm going to go ahead and correct that using Krita, and I'm going to show you how to use the tools in the next video. So that's where it's headed. Thanks for staying with me.